Hello, fellow watchers and enjoyers. It is I, Piggy, and I'm bringing you this question: why EastEnders characters had wasted potential? Now, this can range from a whole host of people, from Callum to Kim to Dottie. We're just here to talk about some characters that had wasted potential, and that's it. I'm joined by Ash, and I'm gonna let him take the floor now.
Yeah, it's one of those things with wasted potential where it's really hard to quantify, because for someone to have wasted potential, first they have to prove that they had any potential in the first place. So a character who's given nothing the whole time and doesn't really get to perform anything, they're not wasted potential because they never had that potential to begin with. So it does come into the characters who did have a lot more presence, a lot more attention, a lot more of a showing of themselves, and it's about whether they could have done more rather than them just never being used. Because there's a difference between wasted potential and being wasted. I think we'll probably just rattle off a couple of names and go through why. Some of them are obviously quite standard ones that you'll expect from everywhere. I think the first one is like a polarizing, pretty simple one is Abby Branning as a character. You know, one of those. It's not one of the, as a kid who joins a show, and she was on the show from the age of 8 or something. She was really young when she started. When you have those characters who basically grow up entirely on the show, you're absolutely remiss to not use them, because then it's just, what's the point? You get this natural legacy that these other characters will never have, because we'd known Abby Branning since the age of 8 or something. We'd known her as a kid, and even then, those characters who do start as a kid but actually develop into being really talented actors and actresses, which typically doesn't happen because the shelf life on kid actors on soaps are really, really slim, because most of them can't even say the name without screwing it up. So to have an actor who manages to grow up on the show and go through all the trials and tribulations of being on national TV year round since the age of 10, and through time, obviously she didn't get as much of the spotlight because Lauren had a lot of the problems and most of the Brannings just focused on Max. She did become the weird, the ugly duckling who never really got to flourish as a whole. But because of that, she slowly progressed into being this kind of weirdly twisted, not entirely all together, would do some underhanded tactics to get whatever she wanted, in just a really, really intriguing way to leverage her and make herself more important. Some of the great stuff, you have the Lauren and Abby feud, you have the Stephen, Lauren, and Abby love triangle. You even have the brief connection with Aunt Babe, who was pushing her to act on the more despicable side, coercing a very not straight Ben, who's acting straight, into being with her, saying there's a baby. And because obviously he had Lexi but doesn't get to see her, now it's oh no, we wouldn't do anything to compromise the babies. Yes. And then just carrying that forward, then at the end of 2017, suddenly she goes off the roof and she's dead. What the fuck, guys? What the fuck? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Now, obviously, there was some backstage inferences that maybe she was a bit unprofessional at times. I don't have an actual source for that. It's just stuff you hear in the pipeline. Apparently, she was a bit unprofessional, maybe showing up late, maybe showing up drunk. Similar to how Whitney was perceived. But she was never given the proper chance to actually prove that I deserve to be here. I'm a significantly better character than Lauren the entire time. And if she's already committed, 10 years of her life, obviously I don't know the exact figures, but it's roughly 10 years that she was there for. She's already committed 10 years of her life there. Why are you getting rid of her? It is wasted potential, because she showed glimpses of being a really interesting, slightly dark and twisted character. But at the end of the day, now she's dead, and it's not Penny's fault that she was brought back with Lauren to be a little sister type character. But imagine if that was Abby, 10 times better.
Yeah. I do agree with you on that. Abby is an interesting character when you look at it, because she did have so much potential, and yes, we are the two people out of the fairly small minority that like Abby over Lauren. I don't think anyone likes Lauren. I don't think. Except
really.
John in the corner. I see you, John. But yeah, Abby definitely had the better potential of the two. Didn't they have a dog, Fido or something?
Mhm.
They had a dog, didn't they, Abby and Lauren?
Yeah, they had a dog. Abby also had rabbits or hamsters or something. I don't remember.
Hamsters are the smaller version of capybaras, so couldn't get a capybara in London, sadly. So yeah, she definitely did have wasted potential. I do agree. Someone, I guess, because we do meme on him a lot here on this channel. I guess Callum, like,
Yeah.
he was introduced as halfway, a dumb-witted character who's not all there. He was a bit clumsy. Basically, he was Nigel with dementia, but without dementia. Just very clumsy, didn't know what to do. And then he gets the hot feelings for Ben. And then they get married in 2022 after Phil punches Callum's dad, who's a massive homophobe. And Stuart stands with him. I love Stuart. I might talk about him in a minute.
Me too.
And then he just suffers because Ben is depressed all the time. So
Yeah, it's one of those, because it's always hard to be a part of a popular ship. Like, it's always hard to be a part of a popular couple, and you're not even the most popular one. Like, it is a problem, because when you have Ben Mitchell in a relationship, especially that version of Ben Mitchell, who was a very important character in the era, a very polarizing, always had a storyline, always had attention, always had plans set in place for him, like he was a Phil Mitchell, like he was Sharon, for example, always had the focus. Suddenly your partner, it's not sink or swim, but it is necessarily how. We got this really cool storyline for Ben, and how will Callum react to Ben's struggles? Like, well, you're supposed to develop both sides, because it was an interesting tale to see Callum, who started off as like a weird, like, kind of idiot character within the Carter family, not related but like known, and is friends with them, gets a Whitney, which is obviously the cursed monkey paw, and then Callum obviously with the cursed monkey paw, which, can I be in can I finally be in a popular relationship, please? And they go, yeah, but you're not even the main one in it. Not even the main one in it. But and then he goes through his journey of discovering his sexuality. We realize that in the army there was a guy called, I don't remember his name, but it was like a one-letter word. And they had one letter like initial, and they were slow courting, but they had this unspoken love and relationship, but they never really addressed it. And it finally gets exposed, and you have the famous Ben, "I smell a queer" line, which is iconic in its own way. It's such a good line, and I'm glad that word got reclaimed. And then slowly they get together, they fight the odds, they defeat the odds. Phil punches Jono Highway, fully establishing that Phil is okay with Ben's sexuality and happy with his choice in men. Then they kind of start to develop a bit more, saying he's going to become a policeman. Now he's a detective immediately within like a year. And that's pretty much where it stopped, as when Ben left the show, Callum just became Lexi's other dad, which, everybody got all up in arms of when Billy said it, but fundamentally it is just where it's at. But I suppose I'll pose the other question, because he definitely could have been used more. But on the same way, was he at his max capacity? Is it as much? He's done a decent amount on his time on the show. Is he at the brink? Is there? He's been wasted over the last year or so, but he still has lived up on a lot more potential than he showed early on. Like him becoming Ben's partner was the shot in the arm that actually made him a relevant character. So wasted, yes. Potential, I think Callum's potential has been pretty well rounded, and I still think he's going to leave. But since they were so desperate to never split Ben and Callum up, maybe in the future when they return, maybe Highway comes back.
No, please, I don't want Ben and Callum back together. It's leaving the past. But I don't know if it is. I see it more as wasted potential in the fact that Callum was always the second. He was always the middle guy. Like it was never a 50-50 relationship. It was always just. It's just about Ben. What?
It's always just 2080.
Yeah. So yeah. Stuart, I guess, would be up next. Stuart and Rainey, just because I've mentioned them briefly.
I mean, I think that's more underrated than wasted potential, personally.
Fair enough. Any more you've got there?
I don't like Rainey either, personally. More underrated. Oh boy, where do we take this? Oh, not underrated, more wasted potential. I mean, we could obviously take the slight angle, and obviously there's a lot of names that you could all pick. Like, you could name like 10 names that are all wasted. Like a lot of the characters that were killed off, like a lot of characters who were killed off, but they didn't really deserve to be, like original, like the original Lucy Beale, who was a whole lot more interesting than the recast, but the recast got killed off. But did the recast have the same potential as the previous one? No, not at all. Not at all. The previous one felt exactly like Cindy's daughter, and the second one felt like a wooden board. It's just complete difference in how an actor completely reshaped the role. And I mean, you even had like Lauren, who was recast herself, and into Jacqueline Josso, who's now played her for ages. Underrated, wasted.
Again,
Phil Mitchell for the last couple of years. I lie. Obviously, I just mean for a character of such status for a couple years in the middle there, when he clearly just didn't give a shit. He was doing nothing the entire time until like 1 week at Christmas before he gets his like necessary panto run. He's like, all right, I'll act for this one scene at Christmas. Now, don't you fucking touch me for the rest of the year. For the rest of the year, don't even look at me twice. But just any more.
Bobby.
I mean, a bunch of the recent introductions, honestly. A bunch of the recent introductions. Anna, Gina. We're only now seeing the potential of the new Mitchells, which is funny to see that a bunch of people are now already. It's funny how, and this will obviously be a video in itself, it's funny how we're seeing with new characters actually getting stories and actually getting interesting solo stories, instead of the audience being like, wow, we hate all these classic textbook normal soap stories. Now that we're getting something new, it's like, wow, it's just like the first day in drama school. It's like, you're getting something new, you fuckers. Enjoy what's new. But I mean, you could go for any. Vincent was established as a big deal, stayed there 4 years, got killed off in the end. Fat Boy always showed glimpses of being a much more serious character, a much more intriguing character, never got there. Bex, interesting character. Martin, even then, so now he's dead. Yeah, sure, everybody's claiming he's everybody's favorite character, but fundamentally, he had probably more bad years than good. It's Sonia. Like, there's just so many. There's so many that you could list and add to this, but we don't really need to go through all of them, because you could pick literally anyone, and you could probably argue a case for them having wasted potential. Because sometimes you get introduced, they have a really good first storyline, and then you go, okay, what next? It's like in doing improv. It's like, okay, and then you move on to the next thing. A lot of people never get to okay, and because ultimately they're not fucking given anything. So, yeah, it's just It's a hard thing to do. Soaps are 250, around what, like 210 approximate episodes a year. If you don't fit into plans, you're just not going to get used.
Yeah, and I think that's where we leave the video. If you enjoy this, let us know down below. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye bye.